Hello, everyone. Hope can you hear me? Good morning. My name is Laysa Uchoa, and today I'll be talking about supersearch with OpenSearch and Python. So a little bit about me. I work at Ivan as a developer advocate. At Ivan, we do our best to manage open source databases for you. And I am the leader of PyLadies Munich chapter in the city of Munich. In case you visit the city, I would love to have you in my meetup as well. Here you can find my Twitter account if you want to follow me. I love to share about the events that I go or what I learn in the way. And so let's go. What is the agenda for today? So I will talk with you about what is OpenSearch, why should you consider OpenSearch in your project, and how can you write your search queries. I will do it with a demo. So what is OpenSearch? If you're already familiar with Elasticsearch, OpenSearch is actually a direct fork of Elasticsearch version 7.10. It's open source, which means that you can fork, you can change the code, and you can use as you want. And the project is already 1 year old, and the releases are happening quite frequently. Every month there is a new release for the OpenSearch project. So what is it, OpenSearch? So as the name has, it's open source. As I already said, you can download and you can use as you wish. But not only that, OpenSearch is actually, in the name also have search, is actually the superpower of OpenSearch is being a search engine is one of the most powerful features of OpenSearch. And the two names are quite, sounds the same, open source and OpenSearch. But what else you can find in the OpenSearch project? You can find an analytics suite, which means that when you send your data to the OpenSearch cluster, you can actually draw some graphics out of that using, for example, the OpenSearch dashboards. And one of the applications of OpenSearch is for log analytics. So you can send a huge amount of logs, and you can query nearly in real time. It's really fast, and it's really used also on that way. If you are already familiar with REST API, if you have worked as a backend or front end, OpenSearch has support for REST API, so you don't need to actually use any other programming languages. You can go and try out with REST API. But the good thing is that actually it has language supports for different programming languages, such as Node.js, Python, of course, PHP, and Go. So you can take a look in the website for more compatibility because still some Elasticsearch client can still work with OpenSearch. So why should you consider OpenSearch in your project? To answer this question, I try to think about what are the superpowers of OpenSearch. So trying to think on that, I try to compare OpenSearch to a superhero. So if OpenSearch would be a superhero, what kind of powers would it have? So when you have your data and you want to send to OpenSearch, you can actually specify which language you want to send to, so it can understand better and it can optimize for search. OpenSearch has support for more than 30 human languages, including Spanish, English, German, and others. So if I would say that OpenSearch would be a hero, OpenSearch would be able to speak several languages, so it would be multilingual. Think about another feature, another cool feature of OpenSearch is OpenSearch. If OpenSearch would be a hero, it would be able to read your mind. I think you already have this experience with search engines. You are there typing something and kind of auto-completes for you. So there's something that OpenSearch has. It has the auto-completion feature that you can configure. And as I already say, OpenSearch has support for multilingual. And if you think about it, okay, if OpenSearch can understand so many languages, can OpenSearch understand my broken English? The answer is yes, because you can also query with fuzzy searching. So for example, if your user are there and mistype something, you can still get relevant results. So this is really cool. And another thing that I would like to highlight is that OpenSearch has dynamic mapping, which means that you send your data to OpenSearch and kind of figures out which is the mapping, like which the types there. And if you want to predetermine that is also possible. But this flexibility is quite cool. So this would be some of the open source superpowers that I have in mind. And now I want to talk about the search queries. So how can you write the search queries, or how do they work? For that, I do have a short demo here. And yeah, so you can, for that actually, sorry, here. So I have it here, a demo. For this demo, I will need Python, the OpenSearch client for Python, and lots of data. For the data set, I actually choose to talk about food. So in case I query some interesting recipes that you are curious, you can always ask me, I can send it to you. So you can find it here, the GitHub repository, and yeah, you can download, and you can do it now or later. So I will open here. So here is the structure of this repository, and you can go here in the README, and this is how the README is organized. So I have it here, a quick start, I have here the dependencies, and how you can run this. One cool thing that, so this file is organized like this. I have here index.py, which helps you to send your data to the OpenSearch cluster, and you can see here the requirements and how to download. For this demo, I'll be using search.py, which actually have the queries already there, and I'll be running now. But you can also look up later. And I'll be using Typer to do this command line application, and also sometimes reach to beautiful print it. So let's go to the first query, which would be the match query. So I will go over some of the basic queries or some interesting queries for you. But before that, I want to just highlight how our data looks like. So it looks like this. I have the directions of how to prepare something. I have the ratings. I have title, and I have ingredients. So you see here I have a lot of different types that I send to OpenSearch. And going to the first query would be the match one. And I will go here, for example, to run this query, I'll be using search.py, and I'll be using the command match. And I'll be looking in, I need to give the field that I'm looking into it, and I choose title because I think it's easier to see. And in the title, we can, for example, look for some interesting recipe. I try to find the most exotic thing that I could think about it, and it was chocolate and garlic. I think they separated, they are great, but are there recipes that they are together? So this was my question that I was trying to understand. So if I write here chocolate, garlic, and look for it, what we see it here has the result. We see the first one is chocolate garlic in this toasted cube bread, and the other ones are garlic just by itself. So we have here garlic brochette, garlic bread, and others. So if you think about it, is there like, it's a bit curious because you can see it here that you have recipes only with garlic. And we are looking for, with the match, to chocolate and garlic. The thing is, when you are using the match query, it has by default the operator OR. So what's actually doing behind is looking for, is there chocolate in the queries, is there a garlic or a garlic? And that's why you have these both results. But one thing that you can do to actually just look for chocolate and garlic, you can give an operator. The operator you can give AND instead of OR. So if you change here to the operator AND, you can see that now actually I only get the recipes that have chocolate and garlic on it. Okay, this is quite. Here, maybe it's not clear how it's in the code. So I have it here, how it's organized. Wait, it's in this way. So I have it here, what you're going to see in the code. You're going to see a Python client, and I'll be using this function called .search. And I'll be filling up this function with the index. I'll give the index is recipes, is the index that I send my data to. And I will write here the body. So for the body, I have to specify the query type. In this case, is match. And the field name, in this case, is title. And also, what kind of query I'm looking, in this case, was chocolate and garlic. And the operator, in this case, was AND. And so it's quite simple. It's basically a lot of Python dictionaries here, and you can find the result that you expect. In this case, it's chocolate garlic mojo with toasted Cuban bread. I have never tried this, but I think it's good. So one other thing I want to say is like, if you have it here, chocolate garlic, if we change the position between chocolate and garlic, and for example, let's look for garlic first and then chocolate. So you can see here that I still get the same result. Because in the match query, the position does not matter. So I'm looking for the words garlic and chocolate and trying to find if they are there. They are there, you have a result here. But sometimes, for example, I have a composed name. And if you're looking at the database for my name, and if you switch the position, you end up with a different person. So that's what I was going to say here. So sometimes the order does matter. And what kind of query you would choose in this way? You would choose the match phrase. That's when it takes into consideration the order that you are looking to. So let's run an example of the match phrase and see how it is. So if I have it here, for example, search.py, and I will write match phrase. And I will be looking in the title, and I'll be looking for coconut cake. So you can see it here that I'm looking for coconut cake, and I'm finding exactly coconut cake in this order. But let's switch this. Instead of coconut cake, let's just look for cake and coconut and see if we can still find. If the match phrase is working correct, we should not see relevant results, if that's the case, right? But yes, sometimes even if you have this in the wrong order, you can still give some flexibility. And in the match phrase, we have a parameter called slope. And we can configure this slope parameter to give you this flexibility between the distance of the words that you are looking for. So in this case, for example, if I give this parameter here, for example, let's put 1 and see if it works. So here, what I am looking in the match phrase, I'm looking for cake and coconut, and please give a flexibility of a slope 1. And what you can see here in the results is that actually we have cake with coconut and some variations. And if we even go further and we give not slope of 1, we can give a slope of 2, we can come back to the original results. We can have now coconut and cake. So how is that this slope parameter actually works in a visual way? So what I have it here, I try to make it like very simple for you to understand. So I have it here. The result was cake with coconut, and what I was looking was actually cake coconut. And I gave her a slope parameter of 1, and what it does is actually, okay, can I move the second term 1 time and still find the results? And that's what you can see it, because now we have cake in the position 1, coconut in the position 3, but we only had to move 1 time. In this next example that we had, we are looking for cake, coconut, and we are getting results coconut cake. So in this case, I gave a slope of 2. And it means that basically I swapped the second one from the position 2 to the position 1, and the first one from the position 1 to the position 2. So this swap counts for a slope of 2, and that's why we get the results. I hope this is simple to understand, and maybe a piece of cake to understand, even like a coconut cake, and you can understand how the match phrase actually works. So the last query that I will talk about is the fuzziness one. As I told you, you can mistype things and you can still get the results back with, if you configure it correct, the fuzziness. So how does the fuzziness work? So the fuzziness accounts for, use the Leverstein distance to actually account for the edit distance between the words that you are querying and the words that are showing up there. So for example, if you are here, you change one of the characters, it accounts for 1. Sorry. And if you are here, in this next example, you can see that you can also remove a character or add a character, and we account with 1. And also when you are working with transposing from adjacent characters, for example, act and cat. And let's try to find an example with fuzziness that we can run here. So if I have it here, and I have search.py, And I can use actually the magic query with this parameter fuzziness to find the fuzziness level. So we can look for in the title for something that could be a misspelling. So a misspell that it's related to food and is sometimes hard to understand even for natives is the word desert and dessert. You must agree they sound very similar, but one is salt and the other one is sweet. So let's try to see if we can find something with desert and with a fuzziness level. So I will add here fuzziness, a moment. Fuzziness is with double Z and double S. So I have to add it here and double S. And the fuzziness level, I will put like, first one, I will put it as 0, and we see if we can find something. So as you can see, we cannot find anything, but if we configure the fuzziness level to 1, can we still find something? So now actually, yes, because a desert can become a desert with adding one character. So of course, if I configure the fuzziness to consider that, it will try to find this result. And you can see it here, different recipes for fuzziness. So how is that in the code? We have it here, the Python client and you can use the search.py. I have it here, the index again. And in the magic query, I'll be looking in the title and look in the query of desert with the fuzziness of 1. So that's how the result works. But you must be thinking, okay, not always you know exactly how your user is typing or what should you consider. And also if you can think about if you allow too much fuzziness, you may end up with a different word. So you also don't want that. And so for example, one thing that you can do, you can actually configure the auto. You can give automatically kind of to figure out, OpenSearch can figure out what's the best one based on the length of the terms that you are using. So let's try out this. For example, here I will put auto instead. And you can see that I still can get the results. So this is something that I would recommend to do if you don't know how is your data set and what kind of the behavior that you would find, because it kind of is very helpful. And the last thing I want to say is that you can also, as I mentioned, you can also draw graphics with OpenSearch, with the OpenSearch dashboards. There's here, for example, I try out with the same data set, and I could, for example, find the ratings, what are the best, and make different graphics. So this is really cool, and this is basically it for today. You can find the code here, and also you can try out, we have it OpenSearch managed for you, and you can try out for 30 days and see if you do like it. So thank you so much.
But first question here, we actually have quite a few questions.
Wow.
Yeah.
They accumulate from the last session. I don't know about Minecraft, sorry.
No, most of them are about searching. Unfortunately, I don't think the question is how can you search in Minecraft? That's the real question. However, we can start with a very simple question here, which hopefully you can answer. It's has to do with the Elasticsearch versus OpenSearch, and how compatible are the clients and the queries? Do you need to rebuild the entire application if you're switching, or?
So if you are switching, actually I had a specific article, how can you do the migration between the clients? I can send it to you that asked, or you can follow me. I can also share on my Twitter. But basically, some of the clients are compatible. Some of them are not. You may need to switch the code a little bit. So it really depends how your application it is. I would say the Python client is pretty compatible. I didn't really have to do many changes.
All right, thank you very much. Next, also to do with Elasticsearch is, or the history of Elasticsearch, why exactly did it need to be forked? Because, yeah. So
Elasticsearch changed the license, and it was no longer open source. I think it's Apache license version 2.0. And yeah, it was no longer that license. That's why, it cannot be used for as an open source fully. For example, for commercial use, for patent, for chains, and stuff like this. Mm-hmm. So that's why it was decided to be created open source. Does that make sense?
Yes, that absolutely makes sense. It's quite common, actually, and it's a very healthy thing to see in the open source community, that if something gets closed, say, okay, you can do that, and we're going to take it and run with it.
Yeah, there are projects that they end up there, like when the license changes, then nobody really works and the project kind of dies. So I think it's actually good to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Another, like, why choose OpenSearch over Elastic other than the licensing, or is the licensing the main reason?
I think now there are two different projects, so you need to be aware what kind of courses you want to have it, and also what kind of features you want to have, because OpenSearch does have different features, for example, anomaly detection, alerting, and stuff like this. So maybe it fits more for your project, maybe Elasticsearch fits more, that is really up to you.
Thank you very much. Next is, can Elasticsearch connect directly to an SQL relational database?
This is Elasticsearch, maybe OpenSearch. So OpenSearch has support for SQL, and so yes, I would say yes. I didn't try myself, to be honest.
And related one is what, any other databases that it can work with, or is it mostly just SQL, JSON structure?
I would say MongoDB could be something you can try out. It also handles unstructured data, so yeah. There are many databases that it really depends of your case. Some structured database would work better, some unstructured would work better if you have JSON. Probably if you have to analyze text has a search engine, OpenSearch is very good on that, so it really depends.
And I'm guessing that OpenSearch and also Elasticsearch is reasonably smart when it comes to matching the fields for unstructured data as well.
Yes,
that's one of the major advantages.
Because you can also specify the mapping before, so yeah, but you still be working with JSON, say.
We have a sort of a fun question here. If you chose this recipe database, and wondering if there's any special reason. Do you have a special favorite recipe from this database, or?
Interesting. The funny thing is that I was practicing with a friend, and she said like, oh my gosh, I love that. Can you look for different recipe? I will do it in my first day of job. And I was like, oh, this seems exciting. And you can't go wrong with food, especially if it's free food. So I hope you have a good conference meal today.
Absolutely. And question about the fuzziness. Does the fuzziness feature impact performance and the computational cost of the query?
You would have to benchmark that, but I would say not actually. You need to account for fuzziness if you are doing search engine. Where I had a case that, yeah, I had a situation in an application that we actually did not have fuzziness, and every time I mistype something, nothing comes out, and I was like, okay, this seems like a bit wrong. So I tried to fix it, and I say, okay, I think we should use fuzziness here, because this for the user case, it makes sense. So it really depends, and you want, even if it's delay a little bit, you really have to think, okay, what is best for my user? What do my user needs? If you need exact match, then you wouldn't consider fuzziness.
I agree there. Another one is, does OpenSearch support Estonian language or any other, like, Unicode char sets searching for fuzziness?
Now I'm ashamed because I saw 30 languages. I'm curious now if support Estonia. That's a good question. I should know this one.
Hopefully they do. Because I know that there are Python functions and tools that are out there for converting Unicode characters back into normal ones. So I'm assuming
there's one interesting thing about, for example, I was looking for the German language. So in German language, it's different from Portuguese. German language, you can make big words. So you take 3 words, put it together, and becomes one. And so it's very interesting that, for example, if OpenSearch, you can configure that to understand, because if a German speaker is looking for something, it won't look for the whole word. It will look maybe for one of the things that is important there. And the OpenSearch actually can consider that during the optimization to still give the right results. Because, yeah, this is quite cool. Like, for example, 2 words together, you would have to write everything. And if you're a German speaker, only one would make sense in your mind.
And this, fuzziness wouldn't work if it's all considered one word, so I'm guessing it splits it out in the backend.
But I love languages, so for me it's also very interesting how technology works with languages, right? Because, as you say, different languages have different rules, and we have to think about the user.
Of course, it's always the case where you're figuring out what's best for the users and what costs can you handle for serving this. Another one's an AI question. Can you extend the fuzziness search with AI somehow, which takes into account the context of the entire search string?
Ooh, this is a very good one. I think this can give a talk about this. Fuzziness with AI in OpenSearch. Maybe my next talk will be about this. But I cannot, I didn't try out, so I cannot say, no, I'm not an artificial intelligence specialist.
And that's basically, we have one question here, but this is just asking about the query language separating from Elasticsearch, but I'm guessing it's just some features are not there, some features are there.
Yes, actually I do have also like some documentation about it, so if you want after we can look over it, what is actually in one and it's not in the other one. So
this is in the GitHub repository that you had the QR code for, yes?
No, I just have it in the slides because people always ask, so I decided to put, okay, let's clarify. But I hope I can help you.
Yeah,
Thank you, so many questions.
You're doing great, don't worry. Yeah, I had to actually look at the repository there and saw that it's actually quite well documented, so I would recommend anybody who's curious to please go look at that, and also the links to the recipe database and such. So.
Yes, I think it's I think the opportunity to have hands-on in an easy way, so you can just like switch things and try things out. That makes much easier than start from zero just to practice.
I've looked very briefly at Elasticsearch myself, but as far as I understand, it's not actually running on your own computer. You have to have it hosted somewhere else. But it's open source, so I'm guessing it is possible to also host your own backend for it, yes?
Yes. So right now I was actually using my company because we host the OpenSearch. So I was just using the cluster they're running, but you can set up yourself as well. Yeah. But I think it would, it takes more time, of course, if you set up and once.
I'm sure there's also Docker images that can be already have it all set up for you, which is the advantage of open source. You can just do that.
Actually, I think there is in the OpenSearch documentation, there is a quick start with also with Docker that you can run.
And here another question just popped in. Are there any long-term goals that you know that are for OpenSearch?
I will be in the OpenSearch conference in a month, and I hope I want to understand more how the project will go. Right now, I think it's going in a good direction. There are monthly releases, and it's being well maintained, and more people are welcome to contribute, including with the documentation and any kind of contribution. Also, if you have questions about OpenSearch, go to the forum and ask your question there, because every time you ask a question and someone else can answer, this can help a lot of people in the future. So it's always, you never know who is looking, right? Or who needs your help. Yeah. So even when you are the one who asks help.
Actually, that's another great value of the open source community, that it's all out in the open. And that's all the questions that we have for the moment. If there's any other on-the-spot questions that anyone has? Or I think we're okay, then
yes.
That's it for you, so we can give one final
But applause. If you have a question, please talk to me. I'll be happy to talk to you after. Thank you so much for the questions. I was not expecting so much, but I was happy.
Yes, and we also have one small gift for you, so please.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank
you're
you.
welcome.